Alright, this is Weapon X Reacts, and we're back with another video, and this is gonna be a review of Apocalypse Now. I really think that this film right here is one of the greatest war movies of all time, and it does a great job of showing you the horrors of war at its darkest. The character of Captain Willard was not just interesting, he is very well written too, because he starts off as a man who is so deeply scarred by the war, but he is drawn to it in a way that he does not understand. And in the opening scene of this film, he punches a mirror and his hand bleeds. Also, what you have to know about this film is that it actually happened, and it kinda sets the tone for the film. Also, his character even evolves later in the film, especially in the scene of where he meets Colonial Kurtz. I really think that this character right here is a great example of a man's descent into madness. Also, Martin Sheen's performance was just amazing, bro. The production of this film was just as chaotic and harrowing as the film itself. So it started off as a 16-week shoot, which spiraled into 238 days, and it nearly broke everyone that was involved. And the director, Francis Ford Coppola, poured all of his heart, soul, and finances into this project, and he even threatened to commit suicide at one point. And you could tell that he risked everything just to get this film made. And he even famously said that this film isn't about Vietnam, it is Vietnam. And there was even a typhoon that destroyed a large number of sets, and it caused weeks of delays. And the actor Martin Sheen even had a heart attack while filming, but he returned to complete his role, and it's almost like he embodied the inner turmoil that the character went through. And Marlon Brando, who played Colonial Kurtz, arrived on the set overweight and underprepared, and he even asked Francis Ford Coppola to rewrite a lot of scenes. And this film started off with a $13 million budget, but it increased to $30 million. And the actors, they were all on drugs while making this film. And even with a production like this film was still successful, and it still stands as a cinematic masterpiece that I totally recommend you watch. Vittorio Storaro's cinematography of this film was absolutely fantastic, and it does a good job of capturing the haunting and chaotic beauty of war. Also, his use of light and shadows are just striking, and they even mirror the character's descent into madness perfectly. Also, this film's use of color was really well done, especially in the scene of where Captain Willard and his crew get out of the jungle and the colors change from green to red and black as they move forward into the heart of darkness. Also, it even symbolizes the moral decay and loss of sanity that war brings on its soldiers. Also, the final moments at Colonial Kurtz's compound was just an absolute masterclass when it comes to lighting, and it's almost like the cinematography of this film pulls you in deeper to the nightmarish world of this film. And it's not about creating beautiful pictures, it's about using the visual language of cinema to create a deep and psychological story. Also, it even creates an atmosphere that is dark and surreal at the same time. Lawrence Fishburne's performance as Tyrone Clean Miller was really good, and it's even one of the film's most heartbreaking performances. And did you know that he was 14 years old when he was cast back then? And he even lied about his age just so he could get the role. And Clean is a perfect representation of the innocence lost in the brutal environments of war. Also, his boyish bravado and youthful personality really made him stand out to the group, and it even made him feel like he was out of place, even in the harsh realities of Vietnam. And as the journey through the river progresses, the war totally takes its toll on him, but he masks it with bravado, and his death in this film was extremely emotional, especially of when he played the tape of when his mother said goodbye to him. Dennis Hopper's performance as the photojournalist was absolutely insane and unique at the same time. Also, his character was very entertaining to watch, and he even serves as this dark comic relief, even in the film's most intense moments. And his unpredictable behavior even keeps the audience on edge, not sure of what he'll say or do next. Also, one of the most interesting things about this character is that he doesn't have a name, which adds to the mystique of this character, and it even aligns with his role as this twisted, unreliable narrator of Colonial Kurtz's world, and he perfectly represents the thought of losing oneself in the chaos of war, becoming a product of the environment rather than being an individual. And his jittery body movements perfectly captures the haunting and chaotic atmosphere of Colonial Kurtz's compound, and he enhances this film's exploration of the line of insanity and sanity in the context of war. I'm going to explain the ending of this film. So, after taking Colonial Kurtz down, we see a shot of him slowly dying, and his final words were, "The horror, the horror." And that line delivery was really unsettling, which signifies his final acceptance of the horrors he participated in through the Vietnam War. And he dies a broken and tormented man who was ready to give his life away. And Willard leaves the island and sails away silently, probably to return back to civilization or be trapped in a nightmare that he can never escape from. And he realizes that he may have become the successor of Kurtz. And this is a great ending to a great film. And this film takes War is No Joke to a level that is dark and disturbing. The Du Long Bridge scene is one of the most powerful and surreal scenes of this film, and as Willard and his crew get there, they are confronted by its hellish and nightmarish landscape, which creates an atmosphere that feels like a descent into the underworld rather than being a military outpost. And visually, the scene is stunning, and it's a powerful depiction of the meaningless and senseless destruction of war, where the objective has become more about maintaining a presence rather than achieving any real victory. And the soldiers are absolutely terrified and they lack any sense of direction, which highlights the breakdown of command and loss of any semblance of order And this scene is a powerful metaphor for the chaos and futility of the Vietnam War. The Ride of the Valkyrie scene is one of the most iconic scenes in cinema history, and it's one of the greatest scenes in this film, and it's well shot too. Like, the camera movements even make the scene feel terrifyingly real and immersive too. And it even serves as a commentary on the absurdity of war. And the music even adds a layer of cynicism and dark humor, and it's almost if the soldiers are performing a grand ballet of destruction in the environment that they're in. Robert Duvall's performance as Lieutenant Kilgore was really good, and he was very charismatic in the role, and he even brings this swagger to this character, and he is even a man that doesn't give a shit about the chaos that he is in, and he is more focused on his obsession with surfing, and it's almost like all of this is just another day at the beach for him. And his line, "I love the smell of napalm in the morning," which is an iconic line, perfectly sums this up, and he embodies the paradoxes and the absurd nature of the Vietnam War. The tiger scene is one of the film's most tense and symbolic moments, and it's even a masterclass when it comes to building suspense. And as Willard and Chef go into the jungle to search for mangoes, they come across a tiger, and it even serves as a metaphor for the unpredictability of the Vietnam War, and it shows you that in Vietnam there's danger in every corner, even when you least expect it. And it even enhances this film's theme of the dehumanizing effects that war brings on its soldiers. The character of Colonel Kurtz is one of the most terrifying characters in cinema history, and Marlon Brando's performance as him was just something else. And in this film, he is the heart of darkness, and he is a man who has seen the horrors of war, and he went completely insane. And he went from a military officer to a self-proclaimed demigod ruling over a tribe. And what makes this character interesting is that he is surrounded in darkness, and it really adds a layer of mystery to him, and it gives him a presence that is just commanding. And what Marlon Brando does really well with this character is that he doesn't just make him a complete monster, but a tragic figure too. And he has been consumed by the war to the point of where he became part of it, and his monologues are thought-provoking, and it is spoken in a calm way. And despite having not a lot of screen time, his presence looms over the entire narrative, and he embodies this film's theme of madness perfectly. Chef is one of the most human characters in this film, and his nickname reflects his past life, which he desperately tries to cling to in the midst of the war's chaos. And he represents the everyman, and he is not even a soldier or a hero. He is just a regular guy trying to survive in an environment he can barely understand, and his mantra, "never get out of the boat," is repeated, and it becomes a symbol of his fear and desire to stick to what he knows. And his death in this film was tragic and shocking, because he became just another victim of the war's relentless consumption of innocence. And Frederick Forrest really brought this character to life. The Terminate with Extreme Prejudice scene is one of the most chilling scenes in this film, and it even sets up Captain Willard's mission. And in this scene, he is briefed that Colonel Kurtz has gone completely insane and he needs to be assassinated, and the phrase is a euphemism for elimination. And this scene is tense not just because of what it represents, but how it's presented, and the officers who deliver the briefing are calm and detached, and it's almost like they see all of this as just another matter of paperwork. And it even highlights the moral void that the war created, where killing a once respected officer is now just a task that needs to be completed. And it even asks questions if Colonel Kurtz really is a madman that needs to be stopped, or a victim of the system that now seeks to eliminate him. And it even encapsulates this film's themes of moral ambiguity and the dehumanization of war. The French plantation scene is one of the most complex scenes in this film, and did you know that it was cut in the theatrical release for this film, but it was later restored in the Redux version, and it even serves as a reflection on the broader and historical implications of the Vietnam War. And the scene is set in this decaying colonial mansion where a group of French settlers who have been in Vietnam for generations, and they cling to their old world ideals and they refuse to leave. And the dialogue between them and Captain Willard is very interesting, and it is filled with historical context, and it even touches on themes of imperialism, pride, and the nature of the conflict. And the French criticized the US for their involvement in the war, and the visuals really give a decaying feel to the scene, and it even represents a eerie calm, even in the midst of the film's descent into darkness. The editing of this film is a masterclass at creating a surreal and immersive experience that mirrors the disorienting nature of war, and it plays a crucial role in conveying Captain Willard's psychological descent as it goes further into the heart of darkness. And the way of how it blends different time periods, locations, and perspectives gives the film an almost dreamlike flow. And it even cuts between his present journey up the river and flashbacks that reveal his inner thoughts, and this gives the audience a sense of being inside Captain Willard's mind, where all of his fears, memories, and horrors of war are completely blurred together into one continuous nightmare. And it's almost if the boundaries between reality and imagination have completely dissolved, and it reflects the mental state of the characters as they become detached from the world they once knew. And the editing even heightens the tension of the film, and the use of cross-cutting is very good, especially in the scene of where Colonel Kurtz is killed. And it not only heightens the drama, but it creates a powerful visual and emotional impact that reinforces this film's exploration between savagery and civilization. The character of Lance is very interesting, and he starts off as one of the more lighthearted and carefree characters in this film, but his transformation is both fascinating and tragic, and he embodies the youthful and innocent spirit lost in the darkness and brutality of the Vietnam War. And as the journey up the river progresses, his character becomes a powerful symbol in how war can strip away innocence and leave people broken and disconnected from reality. And at the start, he sees war as an adventure, and he indulges in activities such as surfing and dropping acid. And this carefree attitude mirrors the escapism that many soldiers adopted to as a way to cope with the surrounding horrors around them. And as the film progresses, his character becomes detached from reality, and his constant use of drugs plays a big role in this. And by the time they reach Colonel Kurtz's compound, Lance has fully embraced the chaotic world that they entered, and Sam Bottoms did a great job playing this character. I'm gonna show you this scene, but I just want to let you know that it perfectly encapsulates this film's themes of moral ambiguity, the nature of evil, and the psychological impacts of war. And in this scene, it shows Colonel Kurtz talking about his own personal philosophy, describing of how his experiences in Vietnam have led him to embrace the horrors of war as just an act of survival and nature of life.
I've seen horrors that you've seen. But you have no right to call me a murderer. You have a right to kill me. You have a right to do that. But you have no right to judge me. It's impossible through words to describe what is necessary to those who do not know what horror means. Horror. Horror has a face, and you must make a friend of horror. Horror and moral terror are your friends. If they are not, then they are enemies to be feared. They are truly enemies. I remember when I was with Special Forces. Seems 1,000 centuries ago. We went into a camp to inoculate some children. We left the camp after we had inoculated the children for polio. And this old man came running after us, and he was crying. He couldn't say. We went back there, and they had come and hacked off every inoculated arm. There they were in a pile of little arms. And I remember, I cried, I wept like some grandmother. I wanted to tear my teeth out. I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I want to remember it. I never want to forget it. I never want to forget. And then I realized, like I was shot with a diamond bullet right through my forehead. And I thought, my God, the genius of that. The genius. The will to do that. Perfect, genuine, complete, crystalline, pure. And then I realized they were stronger than me because they could stand it. These were not monsters. These were men, trained cadres. These men children were filled with love, but they had the strength. The strength to do that. If I had 10 divisions of those men, then our troubles here would
This
be
acting is
over.
really good.
You have to have men who are more, and at the same time, who are able to utilize their primordial instincts to kill without feeling, without passion, without judgment, because it's judgment that defeats us.
Do you want to know what I like about the scene? Is that Colonel Kurtz's delivery of that entire line is just haunting and thought-provoking, and it really shows how good of an actor Marlon Brando is. He gave this character a presence that just demands your time. And it's not just Marlon Brando's acting that's good, it's also Martin Sheen's acting. Like, he knew exactly what Colonel Kurtz was talking about, and it's just terrifying to see, and it really shows that when it comes to war, this movie does not hold back 1 second. I'm gonna break down the plot of this film. So, in Vietnam in 1970, Captain Willard takes a perilous and increasingly hallucinatory journey upriver to find and terminate Colonel Kurtz, a once promising officer who has reportedly gone completely mad. In the company of a Navy patrol boat filled with street-smart kids, a surfing-obsessed air cavalry officer, and a crazed freelance photographer, Willard travels further and further into the heart of darkness. And this film is an adaptation of Joseph Conrad's The Heart of Darkness, and it's a really good adaptation, even if there are changes to the story. And this is one of those films that Hollywood just does not make anymore. Francis Ford Coppola's direction of Apocalypse Now is a masterful blend of ambition, innovation, and raw artistic expression, and he transformed a chaotic production into a film that is regarded as one of the best in cinema. And he didn't just direct a war film, he created a psychological and existential epic that explores the darkest corners of the human soul and the consequences of unchecked power and violence. And his fearless approach and visionary direction are what make this film an unforgettable and timeless masterpiece. And he even directed some other films like the Godfather trilogy, which I think is one of the best trilogies in cinematic history. And if you haven't seen it, I totally recommend you watch it because it is really good. And he even directed Bram Stoker's Dracula, but his new film, Megalopolis, is a disaster, and it bombed hard at the box office. And this is how much money it made: $4.2 million with a budget of $120 million. And not just that, The trailer had AI generated reviews, which caused a lot of backlash, and you know what makes it even worse? The studio even apologized for it, which is kind of like one of the reasons of why this film is a flop, because when you have a big director like Francis Ford Coppola, you want it to be good, but in reality, it's just a failure because cinema is dying. The soundtrack of this film is fantastic, and it really fits the tone of this film, and it even blends classical music and iconic rock to create a haunting and immersive experience. And I'm gonna show you an example right now. I just want to let you know that the next film I'm gonna review is Seven Samurai, and this film right here has to be one of the best, if not the greatest samurai film of all time, and it's even Akira Kurosawa's most popular film, and there will never be another action film more influential than this one. In conclusion, this was an amazing film, and definitely one of the best anti-war movies of all time. And it does a great job in showing you the devastating effects that war has on its soldiers, like how they are pushed beyond the limits of reality. And it takes me back to a time when Hollywood actually cared about entertaining you instead of pushing their own woke agendas. And that's one thing they have to understand. Stop preaching and start selling your damn product. And I'm gonna finish off with a quote. In a mad world, only the mad are sane. And also, anyway, that's all I got for today. Go away now, and always remember, strike back like a weapon against wokeness.